Hey everybody, my name is Elizabeth Ham and I serve as a lead learner at Innovation Academy at South Campus in Smithfield, North Carolina. And as we are going through these uncertain times of online learning through the experience of the pandemic of COVID-19, I wanted to share with you a couple of ideas and a couple of resources that I am planning on using with my kids that I thought might be of help to you guys too. So today we're going to be talking about how to create a digital jigsaw, really looking at differentiation and collaboration through online literacy. So this session is going to provide for you some opportunities and ways for you to engage students in new and innovative ways as you create a digital jigsaw to encourage collaborations as students learn from each other to master content. And I think that it's important for everybody to know that it doesn't necessarily matter what content area you're focused on. This digital jigsaw could apply to anyone in all curriculum areas. So something that I'm going to be doing throughout this presentation is stopping and asking you to think about key components as we continue to learn together. This activity is through a platform called Pear Deck, and this presentation will also be live for you so you guys can respond and kind of see from the student view how this works. So the question that I want you to think about is, what do you wonder about today's jigsaw learning? As we begin looking at the different components of developing this jigsaw, the first thing that we want to do is develop a driving question and align standards to the work that we are going to do. So again, I want you to think, what is a driving question? With project-based learning in particular, a driving question is extremely important because the driving question sets the purpose for learning and simultaneously captures the student's curiosity. So through proposing a question, it asks the kids to really dig deep as they solve complex problems and as they gather together to analyze the facts and evaluate possible solutions to a problem. The process of creating a driving question and proposing a driving question also allows students to engage through collaborating with each other and exploring real and relevant things in today's world. And so you guys can find out more about developing a powerful essential question by clicking here, and it'll take you to some great resources. In addition, why is it important from your perspective to align standards to a learning experience? So, as you're kind of mulling over that in your mind, something that is one of the key foundations at Innovation Academy is standards-based teaching and learning. And so everything that we do is aligned to standards so that kids have a clear expectation of what they should be doing and what learning target they are working towards. So for this presentation today and for this activity, our driving question is going to be, what is our responsibilities as pioneers to address suffering in our communities? Now, this driving question is very, very significant to us as we have addressed this driving question in multiple ways. Back in the fall of 2018, our students addressed this same driving question through Hurricane Florence and the suffering that was experienced through that devastation. So we're going to kind of circle back to that question again. What is our responsibility as pioneers to address suffering in our communities? In addition, the standards that we're going to focus on specifically within this project, and I know that there are many more, but as an ELA teacher, I always am looking for ways to engage students effectively in collaborative discussions with diverse partners based on text, issues, and building on each other's ideas. In addition, I want the kids to draw evidence from literary and informational text to support analysis, reflection, and research. So again, we could add in multiple layers of this, we could add in multiple standards, but I think that the more simple that you are and the more driven that your work is, the better outcomes that you will see with your kids. Now, Now that you have developed your driving question and you have your standards aligned to this assignment, we are now going to go ahead and dig into the topic selection and then figure out how we are going to break apart the learning so that kids can gain equal access to it. So for this particular activity, again, looking back at the question, what is our responsibility as pioneers to address suffering in our community? I would introduce the kids to this text called Why Your Mindset Matters. The reason that I want to use an anchor text with this specific activity is because I think that it's important to provide background knowledge for the kids and also to create a common understanding among students for how your mindset can impact the way that you process suffering and the way that you address suffering. And so something that's going to be very important through this anchor text is for you to provide your kids with central questions to get your kids brainstorming about the answer to your driving question. So how I would plan on doing this is I would encourage kids to make connections through creating a collaborative mind map. Now, there's a lot of different platforms for kids to create mind maps. As I'm going through this presentation, I've embedded a few, but please don't feel like if you want to use this resource that you have to use the resources that are embedded. You know your kids the best, you know what they need, and you know what they're familiar with. So you could do this in any platform in any way that you want to. So the connection that I really want the kids to make as they read the article about why their mindset matters is how does your mindset affect your perspective on COVID-19? So with that collaborative mind map, I would want to see that big central idea. So again, how does your mindset affect your perspective on COVID-19? And then from there, I would like to see small groups of kids, whether I assign them or let them kind of do that naturally. I would like to see where those ideas connect to and how the kids process that learning. From there, after we've created our mind maps, this is where I'm really going to find a variety of articles that, again, are connecting back to my driving question. And these articles should encourage kids to think outside of the box while also making those connections back to that central idea, back to the standard, and really driving the point home about your driving question. So again, what is our responsibility as pioneers to address suffering in our community? So for this particular activity, there were 3 articles that I selected. So Article 1, and again, all of these were from News ELA. Article 1, it's the title of this article, With Their Businesses Evaporating, Restaurants Use Kitchens to Feed Those in Need. Option 2 is he helps the homeless people reconnect with loved ones through video messages. And then option number 3 is why tough times can create better neighbors. Again, linking that idea back to that driving question, what is our responsibility as pioneers to address suffering in our community? That also links into my understanding of mindset and how your mindset can change the way that you process things. I'm now giving the kids 3 different individualized articles for them to dig into. With this, I would encourage your kids to get involved in the learning, and you could give them choices about which article they're most interested in. You could even propose to them, hey, this is what we're doing. What articles and what other connections can you make, and provide options to them. A great way to kind of get a quick student survey is through Google Forms, and then through using the data from Google Forms, you could then create your small groups. So the next step of this is going to be to create your student groups. So this is just like just a template of what I might do. So say that I had 4 kids that selected this article about the kitchen. So in group 1 is going to be Susie, Charlie, Aiden, and Bethany. Group 2, I've got the names listed. Again, encouraging students to be involved in learning. If the kid is interested in the topic, they're more willing to be engaged and active in that learning. So after I've created the student groups, this is where I'm going to design the focus questions for each text. So, for example, option 1, this is the group 1 text. It says, with their business evaporating, restaurants use their kitchens to feed those in need. I am looking to develop questions that connect again to the driving question, that also connect to the anchor text, that then connect to this individual text, that are going to help us bring these questions together. So the driving question again, what is my responsibility to address suffering in my community? And then these are the focused questions that I want the kids to answer. What suffering is being addressed in this article? What example does the text provide of addressing suffering in the community? And I want them to explain in detail. What idea/ideas did you connect with the most in this passage? And then how could you take action to address suffering in your community based on what you just read? So once the kids have really become the experts at this text by answering these questions and digging deep, now it is time to discuss the learning that they are having, and then begin sharing their knowledge with other people within the class. So as we begin to think about beginning to discuss as a class, there are multiple options for discussion platforms. Some of the ones that I like the most are Google Classroom and Flipgrid. Google Classroom, if you are using this already, is going to serve as a quick and easy place for that kids already have their work posted. And so what you could do is you could post different discussion topics. So you could say like group 1, and then they would answer that question within group 1, group 2 would answer in that, and then group 3 would answer in their section, so that all learning evidence is provided. In addition, with Flipgrid, for those of you guys that haven't used Flipgrid, Flipgrid is a video collaboration platform. And so again, you could organize it the same way. Group 1 responds here, group 2 responds here, group 3 responds here. And so they can watch each other's videos to learn from one another. Please remember that as you guys are working on discussion, you know your kids best, and discussion isn't limited to these platforms. So if you know that kids are familiar with Canvas, then use this in Canvas. If you have another resource, don't hesitate to branch out and to kind of stretch your boundaries as you're figuring out the best discussion options, and always do what you're most comfortable with as you explain this new type of learning to your kids. Now, the specifics of collaborating through discussion, particularly with this jigsaw activity. So the first thing is that you want the kids' response to be posted. So they've read group number 1's article, group number 1 responds in a thorough way, and now it's time to respond. So each kid is going to go into a group that they were not assigned to, and they should first off read a response. Then they should be required to respond to a peer from that other group. So what you should see is that every kid in your class has one in-depth response to the text that they have read and become a master on, and this comment should come from somebody else within the classroom that did not read their article. As a result of that, I'm hoping that this raises different questions. It gives the kids a spot to add their thoughts, to make connections between the text, to make to be challenged through that learning. And then you can continue to require students to engage to various class members. So after they've done that initial response, then they could just pop in and respond to other people. As a grad student myself, I always find that I learn a lot as I read through other people's posts, but then also as I read through the responses on my post as well, because that allows me to really dig deep into my writing style, into the things that I learned, and then to the other things that other readers have highlighted from my response. So I would encourage kids to make those connections as well. Now, at the end of this collaboration through discussion, you could do a variety of things. You could connect with a Zoom call to discuss what they learned. You could have them create videos to discuss what they learned through this experience. But again, the key component of this jigsaw activity is to make sure that kids are connected, that kids are challenged, and that kids are learning in real and relevant ways, even through these uncertain times.